Good evening and welcome back to the channel. Wait a minute. Oh, we're all over the place. Right. Who is online? Who is online? There's people live. Let me just remove this a minute and save that. Right. Yeah, see, I don't want that. There's 21 people online. So let's get right into the video. Grab the comments first of all. James, I'll do some comments first, and then we're going to go to a podcast. Make sure the sound's okay. The sound's fine. I'm going to do a podcast. Going to go to a podcast where Chris Sutton finally gave his reply. Finally gave his reply to Todd. Now we know that we put the video up. Where you know that I like to do things different on this podcast. And it's I don't hold back. Don't hold back. So let's get some. We'll get the hellos at the way for us. First up was James Goran. He's in Cork. Hail from Cork in Ireland. Derek Sands. Hail. Paul Imrie. Hail. JT Boy 67. Hail. Baz. Jenny. Graham Hardy. The Heat of Lisbon. Sean Bust. And one of my best mates was his surname was Bust. From Rutherglen originally. Liam Miles. Jeff Ray. Right. Sorry, everyone. Chilpill's in the house. What did Big Sutty do? Right, let's share the screen, and I'm going to listen to this because this is absolutely right. Just make sure you can hear this first of all.
And this is what he said about you. He spoke about you for 2 or 3 minutes, quite passionately. He accused you of jumping on players.
Right, before we go any further, I'm just going to check that you can hear that and get to the new comments. So just someone tell me in the comments that you heard that okay, right? And then we're going to play the rest of the Sutton hilarity because it is just absolutely hilarity. So tell me in the comments, first of all, that you can actually hear this coming through.
He accused you of being an attention seeker.
An attention seeker, right? Well, no, can you hear that? Okay. Bring up loud and clear. Perfect. That's all I need to know. Right. Sit back. Get yourself comfy. Here's the big man's response. Here is Chris Sutton's response to Todd Cantwell.
He said, why are you so interested in Todd Cantwell and not Celtic? Why are you sat on Twitter hammering a lad? Why is he tweeting a 25-year-old?
He's playing the victim. I wish I had a drum roll bit. I want to just get this going. It's like just the anticipation is building, right? Let's get in there. Big Chris Sutton.
He's trying to stay relevant. It's sad. So, he's not on the fence, that's for sure.
Oh, blimey. Staying relevant. I don't do Kate Bush weird type dances on TikTok to stay relevant.
Does he?
That's what I'm told. I don't have a TikTok account. But so listen, my role, okay, as a pundit when I'm south of the border is to talk about English teams. I've had a role north of the border for a decade, and do you know what? Pundits talk about all Scottish teams. So that's why I talk about Todd Cantwell and Rangers, but I also talk about Aberdeen and Hearts and Hibs and all the other Scottish teams, because that is my job. I don't know why I seriously don't know why he's getting involved in sort of these sort of comebacks all the time. What I think timing is really important in football. And this is a guy who, I mean, all these quotes come out on the same day as the new Rangers manager is appointed. This is a guy who, along with the other Rangers players at the start of this season, have had not a great start to the season. The manager has been sacked. What would I be doing in that situation? Honestly, I would be keeping my head down. I would be keeping my mouth shut. I would be training hard, and I'd be thinking we need to work our way back into a certain level of form before we can even think about sort of spouting our mouths off again. But he's oblivious to it all, and that's the sort of most worrying thing which I can see. And this is a guy, Michael Beale signed Todd Cantwell, and essentially Michael Beale's big players, Todd Cantwell included, didn't turn up in the big games. Todd Cantwell went missing in action against PSV in the Champions League qualifiers, missing in action against Celtic. You go back to last season in the big meaningful games against Celtic. What's your memory of Todd Cantwell? stealing a water bottle, taking a water bottle away from the Celtic midfielder Riho Hatate. Not a ball, taking a water bottle away from him. That is our memory of Todd Cantwell in the big game. So I would just reiterate to him, just do your talking on the pitch, Todd. And then if you actually, so I read some of his quotes about Norwich City. Okay. The 5 managers previous to Michael Beale, they all discarded Todd.
Whoa!
All right. Why did they discard Todd? So something must be up. So you think, well, do you know what? You fall out with one manager, and that may be understandable. One manager may be wrong. Then you think, well, could it be 2 managers who are wrong? Okay, well, we'll give him that. Should we even give him 3 managers? Well, do you know what? If we're being generous, but 5 managers, okay, all thought the same thing about him. So when is the penny going to drop? And is Todd actually going to take some responsibility for his own actions? Do your talking on the pitch.
No, he describes his treatment at Norwich towards the end as barbaric, out of the team, etc.
Earning the right. So I saw the comment, well, he was in Norwich 23s as a 16-year-old. Okay, well, that doesn't matter a jot. So he worked his way into the first team. He had a decent season. I think it was 2021, where I actually went to interview him and he was flying. But you have to maintain that form. And he didn't do that. So nobody has a divine right to play in a team because, or not play in a team because you played in the 23s when you were 16 years old, if that makes any sense. I haven't put that across particularly well, but he doesn't have a divine right to play. All these managers would have picked a fit and firing Todd Cantwell if he was playing well enough. So, I'll just put it, are they all wrong? Why is Todd always the victim in these circumstances? Just a little bit of self-reflection, and then some of the other stuff, which sort of sums him up. And maybe I'm being, slightly unfair. Yeah, that comment, after all I'd done for Norwich City. Well, he was okay for the club. I mean, that was pretty baffling. The fact that he talks about himself in the third person tells you enough, what you want to know about him. I mean, who does that? I don't know whether you do that. And then the Bayern Munich thing. Bayern Munich nearly signed me. Well, I nearly flew to the moon.
Ian Laderman does not talk about himself in the first person. I will say that for right away. But I think one of the things that has clearly irritated Todd is that when he was at Norwich and his star was in the ascendancy, he was flying high. You went to interview him for Mail Online and the Daily Mail, and obviously said lots of nice things to him, and then wrote not lots of nice things about him. In his interview on the Beautiful Game podcast this week, he references that, and it's almost as though he feels that you've come so far away from that opinion now that he feels a little bit betrayed by you.
I wrote that. Him coming up through the ranks at Norwich is a really good story. Norwich has sort of prided itself on players being developed from within. Todd is one of those boys, and he got off to a flyer when he went into the first team. Hence why there was focus on him. I think he scored 6 goals that season in the Premier League. Had a really decent season. The attention was on him, so we went along with Kieran Gill, and we interviewed Todd, and he was flying and he was doing well and he was articulate. But since then, the truth is he's lost his way. I remember covering a game for BT where he was chucking his arms around and blaming other players, and went off down the tunnel in a huff and calling him out for that. But I lost my way at times throughout my career. I always thought that the best way of dealing with things, though, is getting back to the training ground, working hard, shutting your mouth when things aren't going well, and proving yourself on the pitch. And that's, it's the same for Todd. I'll stand by this. So, Ian, you've been a journalist for a long time now. Name three standout moments from Todd Cantwell's career. Are you still there?
I can't name a single. I can't name a single one, but I can. I mean a specific. A specific. I can't remember a specific one. I can remember the fuss about it. I can remember. Hang on. I can remember a time when he did play consistently well for Norwich, when he was getting rave reviews. So let's not pretend that he hasn't had a time when he played well, because he did have a time when he played well. What I want to ask you before we finish quickly is, he's 25 now, as you say. Is there a way back to the very top level for Todd Cantwell or not?
Is there a way? I think...
Short answer.
Well, there's always a way. There's always a way back, but
and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the one and only Chris Sutton. My goodness, that has to be the funniest 10 minutes that I've ever done on YouTube. That was, if you haven't watched that, you need to go back to the beginning and listen to Chris Sutton rip 50 shades of blue off of Todd the hairdressing Cantwell. He owned Cantwell in that interview, and that is probably the funniest 10 minutes of YouTube that I have ever done. Chris Sutton, legend, absolute legend, absolutely brilliant. That was comedy gold. It can't get any better than that. Anyway, let's it's at the point now where I'm just going to go, right, do you know what? Just end the live after that, because you're never going to be doing anything. I mean, I couldn't lace Big Sutty's boots. I would love to get Sutton on this podcast. If I can make that happen, I'd love to get Big Sutton on this podcast, because and it's right, Chilpill, you've said, I'm going to get that up. Chilpill, Sutton's been scalping hunts for 23 years. He has that. You know what I mean? That was just that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant for the big man. And it's just, where do you go for there? Well, I'm meant to follow that up somehow, and it's not a chance. I should just end the podcast, because you cannot beat that. You cannot beat that. Yeah, Lorna, you're getting the next comment up, because Barbie will be crying when he hears that. Todd, let's just run with the comments, because that has to be the most hilarious podcast I've ever listened to. And Chris Sutton, I've been waiting on this comeback for Chris Sutton, and that, ladies and gentlemen, hats off to you, Chris. That was amazing. That was absolutely brilliant. Right, let's try and get some Celtic news after that. And apologies to anyone that hasn't been in since the beginning. If you haven't watched this from the beginning, once it's finished, go back and listen to the first 10 minutes. That's all I ask. Just go back and watch the first 10 minutes of this podcast, because it does have the reply for Chris Sutton, and it was absolutely hilarious, honest to God. Anyway, clear the throat. Let's move on. Where do you go for that? Right, Brendan Rodgers. We need to try and recover this. You can tell that I'm not a professional by any means. I've never done any type of professional anything when it comes to this type of stuff, but who cares? Chris Sutton just owned the guy Cantwell. He just owned him. I'm still laughing at this. Right, let's move on. Let's move on and get some Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers says that the Celtic are in the midst of a good run. He says we're in a good run. We're getting there. When we look at it's 5 wins in a row. Going back to the big victory, obviously at Ibrox with no fans. And let's be said, that was not, when you think about that win, when we think about that win at Ibrox, right? Going to a ground with no fans whatsoever. When I think about going to a grounds with no fans, it's generally because fans have been locked out or something. And that's going back to like late 80s stuff. Let's go back to late 80s stuff when fans were getting locked out for other grounds and everything because of violence, right? And this in 2023, Celtic fans were locked out of, well, they weren't locked out. They were like, yeah, come in, it's all right. We're going to throw bottles and that at you. We're going to throw bottles and that at you and coins and whatever else. Well, maybe no coins. We can't afford them. But anything, stuff like that happens in this day and age. And Celtic felt that their fans weren't safe. So there was no fans. The fact that we went right back and won at that ground with no away fans is absolutely amazing. And Brendan Rodgers has been talking about it, and he said, look, when you go back to that derby victory at Ibrox, it says, We've opened up a 7-point gap at that point. And he says, we've really enjoyed it. We've really moved on. He said, the team are currently finding their groove, says Brendan Rodgers. And that made down to, it's finding their groove. And the team's actually starting to gel together. During the early part of the season, there was a couple of results that you're like, oh, it's Brendan Ball, side to side passing. But Brendan got over that. You know, when you think about the animosity that was there at the beginning of the season towards Brendan, he did come out and he says, I think the players, it's not just a run, but I think it is a run. He says, maybe there's a little bit more going on than there needed to be. There's a little bit more going on in the background. He says, from that, we've been able to identify areas what that looks like. He says, it's all been about formation change and the way that they've changed playing at the beginning of the season. And we knew this was going to happen. Happens when any new manager comes in. Excuse me. Brendan Rodgers, I'm going to say, from that point, the players have been brilliant. In that game at Ibrox, the players have been absolutely brilliant. Where there's a bit of sort of technical fatigue that's came in at the beginning of the season, he says, I'm not too sure. He says, but he says the things that we pinpointed to the players early on in the season is starting to come to fruition. What does that mean? That players are overthinking. He says they're overthinking. They're trying to create the perfect goal. They're trying to walk the ball into the pitch. And fans say that on the park, on the terraces. People say it online. We're trying to walk the ball into the park. Brendan realised that, look, this is the players are trying to do that, and maybe this is a hangover from the last 2 seasons. But the fact that he went, we've made some changes, and it's paid off. It's paid off. We're starting to get there, and Brendan Rodgers believes that things are now starting to click. Is it just the case that we need to relax a little bit with the playing staff and the players need to enjoy themselves on the pitch? Maybe the formation last year, and it was a bit too regimental. Maybe they thought that it was going to be as regimental under Brendan Rodgers, where Brendan Rodgers likes to give players that little bit creativity to express themselves. Let's just hope that when it comes to this weekend, there's a video coming out just after this live, but it talks about the 5 goalkeepers that we could potentially be lined up for Celtic. There's also the Hearts manager. Can you call him a manager? Because he's not even a manager. Come on, Stephen Naismith's not a manager in my books. And it goes on about how he thinks the away fans. That's in the next video, and that's coming up directly after this. Right, let's go back to some of the comments, because that was absolutely hilarious. I've managed to waffle on, but I tell you, I cannot lace Chris Sutton's boots when it comes to commentary and satire. Anyway, my throat is totally gone after that. Hazel says, Chris Sutton regularly owns Chris Boyd, way too intelligent for both of them. He's lyrical, absolutely waxes lyrical with his tongue when it comes to him. He just slaps them down. Boom. It's brilliant. Merv Celtic says, get Sutton on, make it. I'd love to. If there's any, I'm going to message Tomo. I'm going to message Tom and try and make this happen. I need to make this happen. If they're throwing balls at St. Clair in a 5-1 game at Ibrox, nothing said about that. Yeah, that was right, the golf balls. There was nothing said about that. That was a few years ago. 5 wins. 5 wins in the SPL shouldn't be applauded. Not on a run without the League Cup and 0 points in Europe, says Stephen Dockery. Right. I get where you're coming from, but when we have the transformation that we have at the beginning of the season, and the fact that we had a cup game a couple of weeks into the season, you had a cup game, when you've got so many changes. Listen, when Ange Postecoglou came into Celtic, we lost our first 3 games or something. People were saying that he was never going to last. The media were saying he was never going to last till Christmas. So I'm not going to look too much into that, saying that, 5 wins, it is the start of a run. When we look back over seasons, there has to be a low point. You have to get to that low point, and then that is, you find how deep players think and what they're actually, you get right into the psyche of players. And then that's what Brendan's done over the last couple of weeks. He's went right into the psyche of players, and he speaks to them on a personal basis. And that's the difference. That's the difference with the manager now and the manager before. He's got right under the skin of the players, and he wants the best for the players. He knows if he can get the best out of the players, if they want that move to England, it's like, let me make you that player that can get that move. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. So shouldn't it be applauded that we've won five wins in the SPFL? I don't know, Stephen. We've all got our own opinions, and it is called the One Celtic Fans View. So hats off to you for having your view and having your comment. Paul Baird is up next. Didn't the old Sevco keep us out of a game in 1984 when Collins? Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Paul. It's like it's going back that far. When I think about people getting locked out, when fans getting locked out of games, I'm sure they did. John Collins scored a free kick, and that's what he was well known for. I'm sure they did. I need to look into it, but I'm positive. If I ask a couple of mates that still went to games back then, 94, I was probably just a bit getting smashed, to be honest. Anyway, Helen, let's get your comment up. Didn't even think that Todd can respond to that. If you haven't, and my apologies to anyone that's missed the beginning of it, I'm not going to show it again, but once this is over, go back and listen to the first 10 minutes. It's only the first 10 minutes you need to listen to the podcast, and you'll hear and you'll see my response to Chris the man Sutton responding to Todd Cantwell. San Fran Celtic, we'll be letting teams stay saying too much this season. Time to push on and get some comfortable score lines. San Fran Celtic, I did say that when we do the Friday night video, we do the predictions. Some people have been having some crazy predictions. They're like 5-0 and 4-0s and everything. And I did say at the time, I said, look, we're not in that position yet. We've never pushed ourselves enough. We're not in that position to Celtic. When it comes to December, Celtic have always got a 6-0 and a 7-0. I can remember, I think it was about an 8 or 9-0 against Aberdeen. And I missed the game because I was out the night before and I missed the bus. Get the thumbs up. Yeah, it does help with the algorithm, so help that. Live videos don't get the same push as recorded videos. So please do give us a thumbs up and comment once it's finished. Hated the Hunskelper says, Paul, they were given 18,000 at Celtic Park from 1990 to 1994. Even when they took them on the main stand allocation that Ibrox away from us. Yep. Let's get some more. Lorna, let's get you on. Nobody can lace Chris Sutton boots on the commentary bars. No, they can't. They cannot. And I tell you, they cannot. They cannot. Anyway, we drew 1-1 game, Paul. It was the first time the Predator boot was born. Remember the Predator boot from Adidas? Yes, and that's right. And it was John Collins, the first time. He was one of the first players to actually be sponsored by Adidas and that's what got him his move to Monaco. That's what got him to move to Monaco. Right, I'm going to jump through the comments, so apologies if I don't read some of your comments. Header, they claim to destroy the seats. David Murray come out. That's old news. Right. I'm totally done with emotion after that. Let's see if we can get some more news. Everything was all concentrated on the fact that we was getting this one from the big man, Chris Sutton. Does anyone have a clue? Let's see what some of the headlines are kicking about tonight when it comes to Celtic. Tremendous John Hartson. John Hartson is loving the fact that 4.6 million man is doing for Celtic. I have to be honest, Barry Verson, a lot. That's a story that's been going around all day. Does anyone have a clue what VAR is actually supposed to be used for? Oh, here we go. You can just tell that the media are going to start having a go at VAR now because Rangers, the Sevco, aren't getting everything their own way when it comes to VAR, and they're not getting their regular penalty Rangers. I wonder if that's the thing that will continue. I wonder if they'll still get their weekly penalty Rangers. Todd Cantwell by name and player man Cantwell. Yes, he Cantwell. Cantwell is a clown. Let's get some more of these up. They brought on a coach. It's a cracker. They brought on a coach Clementine to manage the Sevco swine. But they don't realise Sevco is spies in paradise is where the silver shine. Wasn't that good? But I'll get it. It's up. Let me see. Funny watching Rangers fans greeting about Sutton and calling him irrelevant. TikTok only won 3 trophies. Sutton won the treble in his first season. Yeah, this is true. And Chris Sutton did say that. He says, look, when it comes to it, at the end of the day, you want to count your medals. Right. Clark and Hearts, that's coming up in the next video. Stephen Naismith. I'm absolutely delighted. There's the Irish Independent. Irish Independent's coming out with another story that's been kicking about, but it's talking about Liam Scales. And they're saying that that Brendan Rodgers is absolutely delighted that Liam Scales has made the Ireland squad. Brendan Rodgers has praised the new Ireland cap, Liam Scales, having him focus, and which turned around a grim prognosis of his future at Celtic into a starring role for club and country. When you think about it, but we're always going to bum up Liam Scales. I mean, he's a player that when he came to Celtic, he wanted to succeed. He thought he wasn't going to get his chance. Went up to Aberdeen on loan. We always seem to go back to Scales. But anyway, this is this one that is in the Irish Independent. It says Scales admitted that he was uneasy over the summer when he returned to Celtic Park, having spent the last season on loan to Aberdeen. He had to try and impress a new manager in Brendan Rodgers, and at one stage it looked as if a move away was on the cards, says Liam Scales. But the Wicklow man says, thanks to partly due to an injury crisis in defence, he's worked his way into the side and now played for Celtic in the league and the Champions League while making his senior Ireland debut against Greece with a follow-up away to Gibraltar. Now, would Liam Scales have got any time on the pitch when it comes to the Ireland squad? Would he have got near that? Is it the fact that he played in the Champions League? Is it the fact that he played in the Champions League and that's what basically made sure that he got that pick from Ireland? I think it probably is. Let me get some banners up. Once everyone's feel live, there we'll go with that one. Liam Scales, tell me in the comments, do you think that Liam Scales would have got anywhere near the Ireland team with if he went back to Aberdeen? Something today says Bain will be our new number one. Lowell's boy. Oh my goodness, please don't. Something today, watch the next video that's coming up right after this live. I'll need to try and schedule it so that it comes up straight away. And I do talk about the 5 goalkeepers that have been linked with Celtic so far. And will we go for any of them? So that's in the video that's coming up after this. Pam says, hail, hail, everyone. Hope you're keeping well. Pam, if you missed the start of the video, once this live's over, go back and listen to the first 10 minutes because it's probably the funniest thing you ever see. Right, let's get back to Liam Scales. In a matter of weeks, Liam Scales has went from a player that was thinking that he was leaving Celtic to regularly playing in the team and the Champions League, making his international debut. Brendan Rodgers said, ahead of the next team's set of tests, that being Hearts and the Champions League home to Atletico Madrid. That's how football can work out, he said. If you stay focused and concentrated, I'm absolutely delighted for him. But now he needs consistency is the name of the game. You think about it, it was only a couple of years ago that he was playing for Shamrock Rovers in Ireland. Liam Scales admitted last week that he feared for his future. He feared for his future under Brendan Rodgers, he said. He probably thought that he was going to be heading elsewhere. But then injuries happened and it was forced upon him to play. I did well as I could have. I stayed in the team and I've proved what I'm all about, Liam Scales said. During the summer, I thought maybe I'll have to go elsewhere to get regular football. Obviously, a couple of injuries happened and I came in and I proved to them what I can do. I showed the manager what I could do and now he is backing me, says Liam Scales. Liam Scales then went on to say, it's a good feeling. I've always felt that if I get my opportunity at Celtic to play centre half there, I will go for it, and that's what I've done. I said, I've always been a bit of a late developer as a player, said Liam Scales, but I knew if I could stay patient and keep improving, I would eventually get there. And he has done that, and that's a fantastic little piece in the Irish Independent. Tell me what you think about Liam Scales. Liam Scales, I still say, that come the end of the season, Liam Scales will be the guy that he'll be undroppable. He'll be completely undroppable. But that's a conversation for another day and at the end of the season. Let's get some more comments up. And I'm going to drop the video. I'm going to cut it short at half an hour tonight because we're going out for dinner. And to be fair, I want people to go back and listen to the first 10 minutes of this podcast because the first 10 minutes of the podcast was absolutely, I can't compete with that. And I'm not going to try and go on for another 45, another half hour and compete with Chris Sutton because I can't. What I can do, though, is I can try and get Chris Sutton on this podcast. That would be absolutely brilliant. Right, let's get some comments before we go. Get Joseph up. Good for Scales. He's proved the doubters wrong. Oh, Mikey Johnson will be the next game. And then game time required. Liam Scales has really shown and proved me wrong. In fairness to him, says Pam. hats off to you, Pam, for admitting it. Listen, we all thought that Scales wasn't going to be good enough for Celtic. Smell the Glove says, that's a fantastic Smell the Glove. If you know what you're on about, you know what you're on about. Smell the Glove. That goes a way back, doesn't it? He says, Scales being left-sided helps us so much, and it does, and it also allows our left back to run forward a bit, because then we know that we've got a bit of cover on that part of the park. I'd love to say your name, but I'm not going to. Said that last season Scales would come good. He's been kept used for Starfield injuries. Yeah, I'm just going to put this on the screen because your name's just hilarious. Your YouTube name is just hilarious, but you're going to get your little moment. Stuart Ramsey is. I'm raging that I missed the start. I'm normally involved. Stuart, go back and just listen to the first 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all it's going to take to go back and listen to the Chris Sutton. God bless the Celtic supporters all over the world from Parkhead tonight. I seen Chris Sutton and Lanark a few weeks ago with Big John Harrison. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, the two of them together are absolutely fantastic. So on that note, if you've missed, I'm sorry I'm cutting it short tonight, but I can't compete with Chris Sutton. There's just no way that you can compete with Chris Sutton. I can't. I just can't. I'm not even going to try. But what I can try is try and get him on to this podcast. So let's see if we can finish the live the right way tonight. So on that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans all around.
Lit.